Gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my ranking of the top 10 Fifth Doctor stories. These are my personal 10 favourite stories of the Fifth Doctor's era, his incumbent era stories. So Castor Valva to the Caves of Androzani. We will not be counting cameos or guest appearances in multiple Doctor stories or anything else after this. This is his TV stories. He actually did about 20 TV stories. Yeah, because there was 7 stories in season 20, 7 in season 19, 7 stories in season 21, but he didn't do the last one because he decided the Sixth Doctor should have that one for some reason. So that was 6 there, and he got 6 stories in season 20, so that actually makes 20 episodes plus the 5 Doctors. So that's actually 21. No, that is 20, I think. Yeah, that is 20 exactly. So we got 19, then 5 Doctors. This discounts his cameo at the end of Logopolis as well, by the way. So he got 20 stories, exactly. So we're going to be looking at the top 10 of those 20 stories. We're looking at the better half of his era. And just to let you know, Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy's 6th and 7th Doctor rankings, they will be top 5 stories due to them having... Well, if you count Trial of Time, there's 4 separate segments as part of this main story. Then it's 11 stories for 6. If you count it as one whole story, then it's 8. And Sylvester McCoy's 7th Doctor, discounting Dimensions in Time in the TV movie, it's 12. And the same with the 9th Doctor, is he had exactly 10 stories. If you have the 2 parters as one story, then it's exactly 10 stories. So those 3 Doctors, they're going to have top 5 episodes of their eras, and 8 in War, like the Peter Cushing movie Doctor, they're going to have the top 8 moments for their Doctors on screen. And then we'll be back to top 10 stories with the 10th, 11th, and 12th Doctors. And also, by the time we get around to it, probably 13th as well. I think, looking at the schedule, I think we'll probably be doing a top 10 13th Doctor stories from series 11 and 12, rather than top 5 13th Doctor stories from series 11 only. Because the top 10 would basically be the series 11 ranking minus 1 story, because she's only on 11 at the moment, but with another series she'll be on 21 or 22. So yeah, we might save her ranking for after series 12, and then again a bit like with the Bond rankings being with Daniel Craig, and any ranking concerning No Time to Die, they will wait until after that film comes out. So we'll do 13s after Series 12 has come out, even though it won't be her final series, and we might need to update it each year. But okay, 5th Doctor, the final classic top 10 Doctor story moments, and the final one until the 10th Doctor, because we're going to do top 5 stories or top 5 moments until then. So let's take a look at the top 10 5th Doctor stories. But before we do that, let's take a look at 2 that do not fall into the top 10 list. 2 of the top 10 weaker stories, but we will start with our Honourable Witch, so this would have been number 11 in my ranking, and Dishonourable, number 20. Story starting with the Dishonourable mention, and I think quite a few of you can guess what this story is after my review. Well, technically I recorded it in July, but due to computer problems it came out in August, though I did do a reaction at the end of August, end of July, start of August, so you'll probably know what this story is. It's my least favourite story of the Peter Davison era. And it's a story I think they should have focused on some parts of this story that I thought were done really brilliantly. And I think that should have been the main plot, or at least the main focus on the story. But instead, they focus on some worse bits. They focus on some really stupid bits. And I really can't get into that. I can't get into those bits. This story is Kinder from season 19. Yeah, people like Kinder for some reason. Stuart Hardy finds this awesome. He likes it more than Time Flight. And I can see him not liking Time Flight, but I can't see why he would prefer Kinder. Or at least consider it awesome. And it's not even due to the visual effects of the snake. Even with the updated visual effects for the DVD, which also look a bit hokey, but more convincing. Actually, I think Snake Dance possibly has the best Mara visual effects. But even with that, the story still sucks. I think they should have focused more on the psychological plot with... Not with that guy who kept going crazy, unless that was more structured. Because it was just all over the place with that guy. But what I wanted was more for what we were having with Tegan. I also didn't really like what they were doing with the villagers. The villagers plot, but maybe that's part of the main plot, so okay, fine. But the psychological stuff, they should have more focused on what was happening with Tegan, rather than what was happening with Prick over there, Mr. Prick person. Also, I really hate the sexism in this story. This is actually a case of sexism towards men. Though, to be fair, there was sexism towards women in the story before False Doomsday, although not as much. But still, there was some, and it was quite annoying. Though, thankfully, there was a good bit. And it was coming from Adric, who was one of the companions. Though, thankfully, Nyssa was able to turn around and say, ahem, and kind of giving a telling off for that remark. So that was good. No one gives these ladies telling off for their sexist comments towards the Doctor. No one gives them a telling off like Nyssa did in the last story. So, yeah. God, I would have liked Nyssa in this story. But she wasn't originally going to be in the story, so they had a really stupid excuse to have her out of the story. Yeah. She just got unwell from the events of the previous story, and she fainted at the end of that one, which is technically a fault of that story. But then she's a little bit better. She's okay to play chess, and then she goes and has a nap in the TARDIS. Couldn't we have some sort of excuse, say, that she wanted to go and visit a place, and so the Doctor dropped her off, and then Tegan and Adric went off somewhere? Or could we at least say that she's not have her at the start, and just say that she's unwell, or just maybe see her in bed, not undressed, obviously. Like I said, we've had sexism towards men. We don't have any more sexism towards the women, just like in False Doomsday. But just say that she's unwell. She's going to skip this story, but we don't see her playing chess or anything. At least try to give us the excuse without being so flat, like at the end of the previous story. But no, that's what they do. It's pretty stupid. She shouldn't be playing chess if she's unwell, unless it's something you do when you're unwell. But I would have thought that might cloud the brain or something. But point is, it's handled badly. And that's pretty much this story in a nutshell. It's handled badly. And that's why I don't like this story. And I've gone into it quite a few times. My reaction, which has been deleted, and my review/rant have gone into it a bit more in detail. And I've talked about it a few more times since. In my season 19 ranking, I've talked about it. And I'm talking about it here. That's probably about it, and I wouldn't be surprised if this may be a contender for my least favourite stories of all time. Warrior's Gate certainly is, and that came out the season before, so yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was a contender for one of my top 10 worst stories of all time, or one of the bottom ones anyway. Yeah, I'm glad there's more better ones than worse ones in that case. Okay, considering I've been talking about my dishonourable mention for quite a long time now, I think it's about time to move on to my honourable mention, which is Terminus from Season 20. Now, this story is the complete opposite to Kinder. There's more Nyssa in it. Yeah, Kinder didn't have any Nyssa apart from 2 scenes. Terminus is all about Nyssa. This is her final story, and she gets the main focus of the story as far as companions are concerned. And it's handled well. I like how Nyssa leaves. I mean, it doesn't come out of nowhere, but it is a bit quick. It's a quick decision to do so, but it's handled better than some other ones. And also, she's probably the most useful companion in this story. Tegan and Turlo get hardly anything to do apart from a few Turlo following the Black Guardian's orders moments, such as sabotaging the TARDIS, which kickstarts the events of the story. But besides that, there's hardly anything for them to do. Which is probably a good thing why Nyssa left, so that they would get stuff to do in the next story. But yeah, and also we've got these 2 other characters who are pretty good, and it's interesting story idea with the basically space plague. Sorry, not plague. Space leprosy. In a way, this is actually a pretty interesting idea, and it's handled well. This is by the guy who wrote Warrior's Gate, by the way, which I get, like I said, would be one of my least favourite stories of all time. Second, actually, I think. Second least favourite after fucking Space Pirates. But like Robert Holmes, he got better with his next story, and same for the guy who wrote Kinder as well, by the way. And yeah, he definitely improves here. Definitely does a good story and manages to have Nissa leave on a good note, and it's a nice instalment of the Black Guardian trilogy. It's one of the better stories of season 20 when you discount the Five Doctors. It's one of the best stories of that season. Well, Five Doctors was a special, so technically it is one of the best stories of the season. Not the best, but certainly in the top 3, which is more than I could say for. Well, I did like Snake Dance, but I think Terminus is better. I think Snake Dance probably would be my 12th number 12 choice, maybe. This or that or Frontios. But it's now time to move to number 10. So we're getting into the list properly, and I'm sorry for talking so long about Kinder. Check out my rant for more reasons why I hate that story. But Terminus, check out the review for more reasons why I like that story. And now, number 10. Number 10 from season 21 is the second story, and one of the final 2-part story, with both episodes being 25 minutes in length, The Awakening. Yeah, this is a really good and fun, enjoyable story, and yeah, it's good. It's good. Not really a huge amount to say that I haven't already said. It's good. Really liked it. It's, of course, the final 2-part story with two 25-minute episodes. Of course, it won't be the final 2-part story at all. Resurrection of the Daleks is edited into 2 45-minute length stories, and you'll get more of those next season. Trial of Time parts 13 and 14 sort of make a 2-part story, but the last episode is 30 minutes. So that's technically the last typical classic length 2-parter. However, the last episode is an extra 5 minutes, so this is the last one with 2 episodes of 25 minutes. And of course, new series will of course have the occasional 2-part story that of course are 45 or longer minute episodes. I say longer because some of the episodes have been a bit longer, such as Journey's End, Pandora Opens and Big Bang have been a little bit longer, both sides. All of the 12th Doctor series finales have been a few more minutes longer. I expect we'll get a few longer 13th Doctor series finales or second halves of a story when we come back to 2-parters later down the line. If not 13th Doctor, then maybe a later incarnation. But yeah, Awakening, it's a good little story, and I like the practical effects that they use, especially for the Malice. I mean, it's not a huge intimidating character, but it does have that psychic projection thing to make up for that, so that's cool. And the human character's also done really well. Okay, moving on to number 9. Number 9 is also a 2-part story. In fact, there's only one bad 2-part story in the Peter Davison out of the 3 4 2-part stories, I should say, in the Peter Davison era. There is only one bad one, so that won't be appearing on this list. And our number 9 choice is one of the good ones. So from season 19, this is Black Orchid. Yeah, this is another good, short, fun story. Although, like I said in the review, I do think it is in a bit of a rush to finish the story in the second episode, whilst in part 1 it was a bit of a slower start. So it took too long to get started and then was in too much of a hurry to finish. That was my main problem with the story. But besides that, it's still very good, still done, handled well, and still a good story. So, Black Orchid. That was good. It was very good. Number 8, we're back to season 20, and this time another installment of the Black Guardian trilogy, and definitely a very good start to it as well. Great introduction to Turlo, great return for the Black Guardian and the Brigadier, great start to this trilogy. This is, of course, Mordred Undead. Mordred Undead is another great story. And it's quite a lot of fun, good story, and the character of Mordred is pretty cool, and his race, and a little bit more into Time Lord lore, a bit. Yeah, it's a good story. I liked it. I did have a few issues with some of Nissa's positioning at the end of part 2, where she's just standing there calling for Tegan. You couldn't really get her to do a better position. Like, she's quickly running out of the TARDIS. She skids and then stops and calls out, and then Tegan runs past. Would have been a bit more enjoyable. Something that classic series does, it's that they just have them stand there you could have it be a bit more dramatic if they maybe had done a bit more movement, or if they were not just standing there. So yeah, Mordred Undead, still a good story. Okay, number 7, back to season 21. We'll be back for season 21 for this story and the next story on this list. And this story this is a really good story. Another great 2-part story. In fact, this is possibly the best 2-parter of the Fifth Doctor's era. Yeah, this is the best 2-parter of the Fifth Doctor's era. Although not the best 2-part story that has both episodes as 25 minutes long. No, because this story has 2 45-minute length episodes, and in its original form was 4 45-minute episodes. And I think you know what story this is. Season 21, 45-minute episodes. Daleks. This is Resurrection of the Daleks. This is a really great way to bring back the Daleks after their 5-year, 4 and a bit year hiatus since Destiny of the Daleks, minus the cameo in 5 Doctors. And they have much better dialogues than either of those 2 stories. And they're handled better. There's no stupid another race of robots bits. I really hated that bit of the Destiny of the Daleks. Eric Saywood knows how to write Daleks. Douglas Adams should take note from Eric Saywood in heaven. But Eric Saywood, he knows how to write Daleks. He knows how to write dialogue. I mean, sometimes they do go back and forwards between decisions, but hey, that's Daleks for you. We also get introduced to Lytton, who will be back next season. He's a pretty cool character, although I think he and the Doctor do need a bit more catching up to do. Then it should have had a bit more interaction than it's implied in Attack of the Cybermen. Tegan leaves, and it doesn't come out of nowhere. It actually is built up throughout the story. It makes a lot of sense, and if this had been the end of season 20, it probably wouldn't have been as dramatic. But I think Tegan's departure was dramatic. I still wish it was season 20's final story, but the way Tegan leaves is done brilliantly. I think it is the best Fifth Doctor companion exit of the best Fifth Doctor companion exit. I mean, Andrix was dramatic, but I think Tegan's was built up, sort of through the events of the story. Tegan's was built up. Maybe Andrix is the best one when it comes to deaths. The other one is chameleons. But when it comes to non-death, it's definitely Tegan, and it's done really well. Handling great. Daleks are great. Davros is great. Terry Malloy is brilliant as Davros. He does a fantastic performance, and he doesn't hold back. He's amazing. And yeah, it's handled brilliantly. So yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, and I think there could have been a few more survivors. Too many people died, and I am a bit concerned about having fake policemen mowing down people in the streets, giving the wrong impression to children. I'd be fine if it was real policemen the show's showing that they're not always nice. Some of them can mow down people or kill innocent people just because, or if it's a historical context or a alternative dystopian future, corrupt government story, etc. Or, like I said, examining real police officers actually doing the wrong thing for a change. But when it comes to trying to get children to trust the police as someone they can trust, basically, in everyday life, for the most part, then, yeah, the complaints from Terror of the Autons kind of come back here. Like I said, I'm fine with showing the police mowing down people if it shows that in a bad light, but these were not real police officers. That's why I'm a bit worried. I was a little bit worried, but I've gone into that enough with my review. So on the whole, Resurrection of Daleks, brilliant. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is our last season 21 story on this list. So the rest will be seasons 20. Oh no, it won't be the last season 21. My mistake. This is the penultimate season 21 story on this list, and the penultimate 5th Doctor story, Planet of Fire. Yeah, this is quite a big story, quite important story for quite a few things. Five's penultimate story, Turlough's departure, the original planned Master Death story before he came back in season 21, Perry's introduction, Chameleon's death story, and the final story for writers Peter Grimwade and director Fiona Cumming, who were, Peter Grimwade, he didn't have the best start with Time Flight, but he did Mordred Undead, and it's great that he comes back to wrap up Turlough's story, like Ian Briggs would with Ace. Although I hate Dragonfire, but I'm glad that Ian Briggs would come back to do Curse of Fenric later down the line. And also, I thought he was Peter Grimwade was a great director as well, and Fiona Cumming was also a brilliant director and has quite a lot of involvement of the show since 1966. So, yeah, so it's a shame to see them both leave. Well, he's not come back anyway. And yeah, Perry I didn't really like to start with, but I think she got better over the story, and she definitely gets better over time with Caves and the 6th Doctor era. Turlough has a great exit. He has a great character backstory. I wish we had a bit more of that throughout his time. We got a little bit in Frontios, but that was about. But besides the Black Guardian trilogy and this story, Frontios is pretty much the most we get. So it's great we get a bit more Turlough backstory, character development stuff just before he leaves. Chameleon gets used, and they have a way around using the prop to tell the story. That's great, and the guy that gets in for Perry's stepfather, Howard, he's really good. And Anthony Ainley's also really great in his final appearance as the Master, until his contract was renewed for the next season. And so technically it's not his last performance of the Master. And yeah, so Planet of Fire, really good. And also it's got a good story around it to help structure these elements up and structure them in this way, with the Master's plan to use Chameleon to help him revive himself after shrinking himself after playing with a new type of tissue compression unit, and also the stuff on Sarn is the stuff about the people of Sarn and the Trions. It all works really well. Some of the whole religious cultural stuff there does get a bit annoying in some places, but you have to sit through it. Actually, I kind of enjoyed the 4-part version of the story more than the shorter special edition version. Somehow I wasn't getting into that for some reason, despite some new cool special effects and the colour grading. And at time of recording, schools are out, so there's going to be a lot of noise outside, sorry. And inside as well. Okay, we'll now move on to number 5. Sorry for taking so long. I need to cut down on when talking about Kinder. Okay, number 5 is back to season 19, and we're on to the first story that I considered good for the 5th. The first 5th Doctor story I considered good, because we had Castrovalva, which was okay, but not really anything special besides being the post-regeneration story of the 5th Doctor, and the Master at the end of this trilogy with 4 going into 5 and the new Master. Then we got False Doomsday, which wasn't very good, and then you got Kinder, and you already know what I think about that one. So the 4th story of the 5th Doctor was the first good one, in my opinion. It was the first one I actually thought was a good story. The Visitation. Is also one of the few historically set stories, and I think that's why some people didn't come back for Black Orchid, because they weren't really keen on having 2 historically set stories back to back, especially as this one was a pseudo-historical, whilst the next one was proper historical. But Visitation, good stuff, really great stuff, really great story. The animatronics with the masks, they needed to be a bit better. They should have had the voice dub over it, because it didn't match with the guy inside. And if it was not animatronics, it was the fate, whatever they did for the masks. They should have had the voice dubbed over rather than have the guy speak. Well, you get the guy speaking, but then dub it over, like what they did with the Tractatus and like what they would do with Judoon as well. But that's really one of my only few flaws. And there are some silly back and forth decisions, but For the most part, it's a good story, and I really like how all four main characters are actually being used for this main story, even if some of them get sidelined for a bit in places. And we'll also get a fifth main character in terms of this former actor, Highwayman, who is also a really good character. And yeah, it's a fun story as well. It's a good 4-part story, and I think, yeah, it's enjoyable. It's also the last appearance of the Sonic Screwdriver, although it doesn't go out with much fanfare. At least K9 got a bit more fanfare in Warrior's Gate. God, I can't believe I just said something positive about that. I don't even know it's that true. Yeah, I don't even know if it's that true. But, you know, at least it would come back. Same for K9. At least they would come back later down the line with fanfare. So, that's good. Anyway, moving on to number 4, the best story of season 20, and the end of the Black Guardian trilogy, Enlightenment. Another Fiona Cumming directed story, and another story from this era with a special edition which has some brilliant visual effects. However, it does have a little bit of a choppy editing, and the same can be said for Planet of Fire. But Enlightenment's a really good story, very well written. Barbara Clegg writes this one. This is the only example before 2018 of both a female writer and a female director on a Doctor Who story. You have female writers, but male directors, as we've seen with Planet of Fire, or you have female directors, but on a male-written story, such as another Fiona Cumming story. I think The Massacre was one of hers. I might be wrong. Such as Pyramids on Mars, which I believe was directed by Paddy Kingsland. She was a great director, but that was written by, technically, Robert Holmes, rewriting another guy's script. This is only one of 2 both female-written and female-directed stories in Doctor Who. The other example is a recent one, 2018's The Witchfinders from Series 11, which was written by Joey Wilkinson, and I think the director was Sally Abraham. I think I might be wrong about that. I think she definitely did direct episode 4, the Arachnids in the UK, which was written by Chris Chibnall. But definitely there was a female director on The Witchfinders. And yes, that's the second of only 2 examples of female writer and female director on the same story. Enlightenment was the first, and until 2018, the only. Yeah, that is actually quite surprising. There's only 2 of them. Yeah, we need to have a few more for Series 12. Okay. So, yeah, Enlightenment. Great story, and delicious performance from Linda Barron as our villainess. Whilst the Guardians also have a good final exit, although the Black Guardian's exit itself is a bit abrupt, but still handled well, and the new visual effects for the special edition look good, but the old ones were also pretty cool. Yeah, Enlightenment, it's a good story, and it's my favourite story of season 20. Well, as far as stories in the season are concerned, there's still the special to go. And there's annoying people outside. Okay, moving on to number 3. Number 3, from season 21, is a story many people would consider the greatest story of all time. It's this or Genesis of the Daleks. So if it's not Genesis of the Daleks, it's usually this story, or Blink. But for classic series, generally this one, if it's not Genesis of the Daleks. And it's Peter Davison's final story as the Fifth Doctor. It's his swan song. It's the conclusion of his era. It's the penultimate story of this of the season, and it's done really well. I don't think we've had a Doctor's Regeneration story on this in a top 10 Doctors story ranking since Patrick Troughton. I think William Hartnell did have it. Maybe John Pertwee did have it with Planet of Spiders. I definitely know Logopolis wasn't on the Tom Baker one. But Planet of Spiders was not on John Pertwee's one. Then this is the first one since Patrick Troughton's with the War Games, and that was very high as well. And so is this one. This one is the Caves of Androzani. This story also sees the return of Robert Holmes, who has vastly improved since the fucking Power Patrol, which was an absolute terrible story, and his not very good plans for the 20th anniversary special, which eventually became The Five Doctors, as written by Terence Dix, R.I.P. But Robert Holmes was able to come back with this story, and what an epic story this is. I also think it's Graham Harper's debut directorial Doctor Who story, And he also does a brilliant job. And happily, Graham Harper will be returning for a few more stories in both the classic and new series eras. Notably, he'll be doing Revelation of the Daleks, and then he'll be back for series 2 and 3 as well, notably doing the series 2 finale, and also Utopia in series 3, which is... we might even be doing the entirety of that finale as well. I'm not sure, he might. If not, then he definitely does that episode. So, I don't know. I think he might do a few... I think he did do a few series 4s as well. I think after series 4 and after the specials, I don't think he did anymore. So that's a shame. But still got a few more Graham Harper directed stories to go in both classic, or at least one in the classic and new series. New series is released in series 2, 3, and maybe 4. But yeah, Caves of Androzani, fantastic story. I've recently reviewed this one, and I talk a lot about that one, so please check that review out. But yeah, fantastic way for Peter Davison to leave, and I think this possibly is the best regeneration story of the classic series. I did love the War Games, but I think this is the one that takes it. Of course, it's not my favourite regeneration story of all time, but it's still one of the best, and it definitely takes my #1 spot for best classic regeneration story. And whilst I don't consider this one of the best stories of all time, it's only number 3 on this ranking after all, I still consider it a very strong story. As you can tell, it's number 3 on this ranking. So, and yeah, the top 3 are the best 3 of the Peter Davison era. They're all 10 out of 10s. I think these are the only 3 10 out of 10s, yeah. So, with only 3 10 out of 10s, it's got to be one of, and this one being one of them, it's got to be one of the best ones. Of course, there are 2 I consider stronger, but yeah, I love Caves of Androzani. I'm not going to outright say it's one of the best or the best. Same with Genesis of the Daleks, but and that was third on my Tom Baker ranking as well. There was a bit more 10 out of 10 stories in that era, but Genesis came third. So don't worry, don't calm down. Same for Inferno on the John Pertwee one. That's another very popular classic one. And War Games, was third on the season 6 ranking. It was, I don't know if it was top 5. It's definitely top 10 in Patrick Charlton's ranking anyway. So, and Blink will probably be number 1 on David Tennant's. So calm down, people. Best stories of all stories that are considered the best stories of all time by many fans are going to be in top 10 rankings of my Doctors list, apart from Midnight. Unless I change my mind by then. But anyway, so the Caves of Androzani, epic. Number two could be the best written story of the Peter Davison era. It's really well handled, and execution wise, it's also brilliant. It's a joy to watch. Doesn't drag. I mean, the first episode can be a bit slow in places, but it's building up the story, and the cliffhanger of that episode, one of the best cliffhangers of all time. Part 4's ending is also epic and quite shocking. This is season 19's Earthshock. Yeah, as soon as I said the title, you know what this story's about. Cybermen are back. Adric dies. Epic story in between. And it's a brilliant build-up, brilliant execution. I mean, it does have a few slow-down moments, but this is alright. It's got something even better coming up later. And it's really cool and got some really great ending. Quite shocking as well, if you were watching at the time. Cybermen are back for the first time in 6 and a bit years, and my God, are they much better improved. I mean, I'm actually kind of okay with them being a bit emotional, because they're funny. They can be... You can enjoy them being emotional here, whilst in Revenge of the Cybermen, they sucked. Well, but here, they're doing what Cybermen are doing, but with a little bit of emotion in their voice. But it's more likeable. It's more likeable than what happened in Revenge of the Cybermen. Yeah, that story kind of messed up the Cybermen. This story does Cybermen good. And I would say the same for the other 80s Cybermen stories. Way better than Revenge. Does the Cybermen brilliantly. Companions all used really well, although Nyssa does get sidelined a bit more. She's the one who usually gets sidelined in season 19, isn't she? I'm kind of glad she gets to hang out with the Doctor a bit more on her own at the start of season 20. And then it's Tegan and Turlough's time to be sidelined in Mordred Undead. Not Mordred Undead, in Terminus. So that Nyssa can get more attention, because she's getting sidelined quite a bit in season 19, isn't she? But Well, apart from Castrovalva and Time Flight. And maybe Force Doomsday, but certainly Kinder, a little bit of Visitation, not too much Black Orchid, and a bit here, a little bit sidelined. But it's still a great story, and I'm actually kind of glad that Adric gets a bit more involvement to do, considering it's his last story, and we get to build his and the Fifth Doctor's relationship with each other before the epic climax, and I think it's handled really well. And supporting characters are also pretty great, although one character who we have been following throughout the story, does die unnecessarily. And I didn't think they built that character up to be killed off at that point. Maybe another character who had been building up a bit more, had a bit more involvement, but the character who did die, I think could have had a bit more involvement. But on the whole, Earthshock is a brilliant story and is handled perfectly. Or nearly perfectly anyway. Now I never know if I was right. Brilliant final line. And yeah, also if you've got the DVD, do check out the Earthshock Part 5 short. It's not canon, but it's funny. It's very funny. I mean, it's not as good as the story, the actual Earthshock, but it's very funny. So do check this out. And finally, number one. Number one is the best Fifth Doctor story. And at this point of Doctor Who's era, between 1963 and 1984, it was the best story of all time and would remain so for 5 more years until 1988. Yeah, 5 more years with 1988's Remembrance of the Daleks. And this is the 20th anniversary special between seasons 20 and 21, and technically it's counted as season 20, so it's the season 20 special, The Five Doctors. The late Terence Dix gets another shout out here, as his greatest story of all time takes the number 1 spot of this ranking. Terence, I salute you. You once again topped the ranking. And yeah, Five Doctors is outstanding. Fantastic plot, fantastic characters, fantastic build-up. Okay, the special edition does kind of drag it out a little bit longer, and I think the original version does have a few noticeable ending issues. I think a 95-minute version of the story would have been the best version, a kind of in between. But the story is still fantastic. I love the story. I love the characters. I love how it's all executed. Perfect direction. Peter Moffat does a brilliant job. Perfect writing by the late Terence Dix. Fantastic. Giving him as much praise as I can because he does a genuinely great job. And it's just so well. Richard Turndale does a good job as the First Doctor, although not quite as good as William Hartnell. I may consider him better than David Bradley. He's a bit too harsh in the voice, like David Bradley's a bit too soft. And Hartnell is honestly the best First Doctor. Well, there's no doubt about that. But he still does a good job, and we still get a bit of Hartnell at the start from a clip from Dark Division of Earth that they decided to play. Not sure why, but I guess it gets William Hartnell into the story. A bit like the use of the stock footage in the Day of the Doctor getting the other Doctors into the story, apart from Capaldi, who was a... And Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee slide back into their roles brilliantly, and whilst Tom Baker could sadly not come in, they were able to use clips from Sharda, which was brilliant. And Sharda was also a brilliant story as well, so that's cool. And it's great to have them all together, sort of, with, in case of Tom Baker. And, yeah, and it gave the Fifth Doctor time to shine alongside his other selves. And, yeah, Tegan and Turlough were developing their characters great. King's Demons kind of didn't really do anything with Turlough after the Black Guardian stuff. They actually give him a little bit more personality here. Again, he doesn't have a huge amount. He gets a bit sidelined. He gets better in season 21. But certainly they're a great companion duo here, and I love the use of Susan and Sarah Jane and the Brigadier also in the story. And Romana gets a few good scenes from Sharda. Yeah, I wonder if Lana Ward would have returned for this story had Tom Baker come back, or if they would have asked Louise Jameson or Mary Tam, or if I think the plan was to have Sarah Jane with the Fourth Doctor, the Brigadier with the third, and maybe Jamie with the second, possibly. I think that might be the plan. It was a whole kerfuffle, but still really, really good. And Victoria was originally going to be in Jamie's spot, and when it looked like Jamie was Fraser Hines was going to make it, they were going to have her, but Fraser Hines could make it for that bit. But yeah, on the whole, Five Doctors, amazing story, and I wouldn't have it any other way, apart from maybe a little bit longer in the shorter version and a bit shorter in the longer version. Yeah. And yeah, absolutely epic. And new visual effects on the special edition, most of them are great. Some of them not so good, but most of them are great. So yeah, The Five Doctors, amazing story. So I'll just reread my ranking for you. Number 10 was The Awakening. Number 9 was The Black Orchid. Number 8 was Mordred Undead. Number 7 was Resurrection of the Daleks. Number 6 was Clans of Fire. Number 5 was The Visitation. Number 4 was Enlightenment. Number 3 was The Caves of Androzani. Number 2 was Earthshock. And number 1 was The Five Doctors. From seasons 21, 19, 20, 21, 21, 19, 20, 21, 19, and the 20 special, respectively. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Next time is the Twin Dilemma, Colin Baker's opening story. And unfortunately, it's the one roadblock in the way of me getting excited for the new Doctor. On the plus side, I love season 22, which is not a popular opinion unless you're a Colin Baker fan. But I love season 22, so I'm going to be getting very excited for that series, and I'm going to be getting very excited for the new Doctor, for Colin Baker, for the 6th Doctor. Once we get past Twin Dilemma, I'm going to get very excited. I'm going to get very excited for season 22, especially as, in my opinion, season 22's opening story is the best Colin Baker story. For me, Attack of the Cybermen, or it's that or Two Doctors. We'll see when we get past them. But I'll get very excited for those. It's just that we've got to get through Twin Dilemma first. But once we get past that, we'll have the season 21 ranking, and then I can get excited. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching my Peter Davison ranking. And Peter Davison, thank you for being the 5th Doctor. You did a fantastic job, and we'll miss you. And now we can start looking forward to Colin Baker's 6th Doctor era. Once we get past the Twin Dilemma, of course, as I mentioned. But after that, then we can get excited. Okay, I know it's not a very popular opinion until recent years where it started to get a bit more popular. Maybe it's due to maybe most of them are big Finnish fans and they've started liking his TV stories a bit more. Possibly, but certainly that season 22 is going to be much better than Twin Dilemma, so I'll be getting excited for that. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Well, if you count Trial of a Time Lord as 4-part stories, and the same for the 9th Doctor, considering if you count his, we might have to update it every other couple of years. Dishonorable mention. And my dishonourable mention, I think quite a few of you can guess ever since my review of it back last month. No, it's September. You fucker! This is Kinder. My reaction, right? And also had the Kinder one. All of the series, all of the, yeah, and of course, well, I expect we'll get a few more longer 12. Black Orchid. From season 19, this story. You can put a bit more effort into it, Sarah Sutton. No offense. I'm cutting that. That's an insult. But yeah, Mordred Undead, still a good story. Yeah. This is a really good way to bring that. And she does it's a really good job. But on the whole, Fiona coming. Shut up. 5 more stories to go. The only other story that which was written by Sally Abraham, can't remember that. I don't know if that's right. And directed by a woman. No. Episode. Number 3 is what many people would consider the is one story that is a story many people. So if it's not Genesis of the Dalek, and you're happy happily Graham Harper will be returning for a few more series. Oh, go away and like I said, whilst I don't see, and the same would be said. Terrence Dix once again gets an honourable mention and a shout. Terrence, the late. Oh dear. Cut that bit out. I was returning to the video. And yeah, Patrick Troughton back on full form as well as John Pertwee, but at least season 21 at least season 22. And yeah, now we